Envision a world where your very essence, your personality, could slowly dissipate, not just affecting you, but also posing profound challenges to the fabric of our society. Today, we're diving deep into the story of Arnold Pick, a pioneering neurologist whose discovery of a unique form of dementia changed medical history and continues challenging our legal systems and societal norms. This is more than medical science. It's about the clash between our understanding of the mind and the laws governing us. Without further ado, let's dive in.
The legacy of Arnold Pick, pioneering frontotemporal dementia research.
Frontotemporal dementia, or FTD, known initially as Pick's disease, represents a monumental shift in our understanding of brain disorders, standing distinct from Alzheimer's. Arnold Pick, a neurologist born in 1851 in what is now the Czech Republic, was a trailblazer in recognizing this unique form of dementia, laying the foundation for modern neuroscience. His medical odyssey commenced in Vienna and later in Berlin, where he delved into the realms of neurology, psychiatry, and neuropathology. By 1886, he had ascended to the esteemed position of professor of psychiatry at the University of Prague, triumphing over formidable language and cultural barriers to impart knowledge and conduct research. Between 1892 and 1906, Pick published groundbreaking papers detailing cases of localized brain atrophy in the frontal and temporal lobes, areas we now know are crucial in regulating behavior and language. Unlike his contemporaries who linked dementia primarily to syphilis or vascular diseases, Pick's work highlighted degenerative processes, setting a foundation that differentiated frontotemporal dementia from other dementia types.
Now, let us first consider the broader historical context of the 19th century, a time when the origins of mental disorders were steeped in mystery and misconception.
In the 19th century, the complexities of the human mind were as mysterious as the deepest oceans, and theories about the origins of dementia were diverse and fascinating. At the time, most dementia cases were attributed to physical conditions, such as vascular diseases or infections like syphilis, reflecting the medical community's reliance on observable symptoms and prevalent health issues. Imagine a foggy evening in Victorian London or Paris, where dim gas lamps struggle to pierce the darkness. This scene encapsulates the setting where many physicians of that era worked. In the shadowy confines of hospitals, they treated patients whose cognitive abilities seemed enveloped in fog, with memories fading and personalities changing dramatically. Take, for example, a once eloquent gentleman found wandering the streets, his speech slurred and his thoughts scattered. Doctors might diagnose him with vascular dementia, believing that blocked or damaged blood vessels in his brain reduced blood flow, depriving brain cells of essential oxygen and nutrients, and leading to cognitive decline. Alternatively, dementia was sometimes linked to syphilis, dubbed the great imitator for its ability to mimic other diseases. The tertiary stage of this infection could cause neurosyphilis, impacting the brain and nervous system. In the somber setting of an asylum, one might encounter a patient, perhaps once a vibrant artist or scholar, now exhibiting severe neurological symptoms like paralysis, intense headaches, and hallucinations due to syphilitic damage, a standard and poignant narrative of the time. These historical views on dementia were part of a broader narrative that connected mental decline directly to physical ailments, whether through vascular blockage or the effects of an infectious disease. The medical landscape of the 19th century was a rich mosaic of burgeoning science and residual superstition, where each dementia case contributed to both the growing understanding of brain pathology and the myths surrounding mental disorders.
Transitioning from a broader historical context to a focused examination, let's explore how Arnold Pick's collaboration with Alois Alzheimer marked a pivotal moment in the scientific understanding of brain disorders.
Arnold Pick's work with Alois Alzheimer led to the discovery of critical pathological features like Pick bodies and ballooned cells. These features were initially met with skepticism due to their differences from typical dementia markers. Over time, these discoveries gained acceptance, reshaping our understanding of brain diseases. The term Pick's disease was coined in 1923 by A. Gans, but lacked detail until 1926, when K. Onari and H. Spatz specified it as involving degenerative changes in the frontotemporal regions, distinguishing it clearly from other dementias. By the mid-20th century, further research linked Pick's initial findings to variants of dementia characterized by behavioral and linguistic changes. This research eventually connected these conditions to tau proteins, specifically the 3R-tau isoform, broadening the scope of what is now known as the Pick complex and underscoring the variety within tauopathies. Arnold Pick's contributions have profoundly influenced neurology, particularly in the study of neurodegenerative diseases. His work helped enhance diagnostic precision and deepen our understanding of frontotemporal dementia, leaving a legacy that continues to impact modern neuroscience. In essence, Pick's research not only identified a unique form of dementia, but also broadened our comprehension of neurodegenerative disorders, marking a significant advancement in the field.
As we reflect on the legacy of Arnold Pick's groundbreaking research, let us now examine into the current understanding and classifications of frontotemporal dementia.
FTD affects individuals predominantly in their behavior and language skills, deteriorating as it progresses through specific brain areas. Here's a simplified breakdown of the three main types. Behavioral variant frontotemporal dementia, also called bvFTD. This variant primarily alters behavior. Individuals may lose interest in daily activities and display inappropriate behaviors, such as impulsiveness or insensitivity. Personal care may decline, and symptoms like compulsive collecting or unusual eating habits can emerge as the condition progresses. Semantic dementia, or SD. SD impairs comprehension and use of language. People with this condition gradually forget the meanings of words, may not recognize everyday objects, and could misuse words during conversations. Personality changes, such as appearing detached or uninterested, are also common. Progressive non-fluent aphasia, or PNFA. PNFA mainly affects speech production, making it challenging for individuals to construct sentences. They might speak slowly, choose the wrong words, or pause frequently, although their understanding of language remains intact. These conditions often manifest in brain scans as shrinkage in regions associated with personality or linguistic capabilities. Abnormal accumulations of specific proteins in the brain are vital markers that aid in diagnosing FTD. Overlap with other neurological disorders. Some with bvFTD may develop symptoms akin to motor neuron diseases like amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, aka ALS. For example, muscle weakness or speech difficulties due to nerve damage in the brain and spinal cord. FTD can also relate to movement disorders such as corticobasal degeneration, or CBD, and progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP. CBD may cause stiffness or awkward movements on one side of the body. At the same time, PSP typically impacts balance and eye movements. Both can lead to cognitive changes similar to FTD. Diagnosing FTD involves a mix of behavioral assessments and physical symptom evaluations supported by various tests and brain imaging techniques. While there is no cure for FTD, treatment focuses on symptom management. Ongoing research aims to better understand the genetic and biological foundations of FTD, potentially leading to more effective therapies.
These are the brain changes in frontotemporal dementia.
Brain shrinkage. In FTD, the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain typically shrink. This atrophy primarily affects specific areas, while other regions may appear unchanged until the disease progresses. Microscopic changes. On closer examination, these parts of the brain exhibit a loss of certain neurons and damage to the brain layers that are usually active with neuron activity. Additionally, there is an increase in supportive cells, a response often triggered by brain damage or inflammation. To understand the microscopic changes in the brain during conditions like FTD, think of a bustling city where everything is designed to work in harmony. In a healthy brain, neurons are like the city's workforce. Each has a specific role, such as sending signals that control everything from our thoughts to movements. The brain layers, active with neuron activity, are akin to busy streets filled with traffic, facilitating the smooth flow of communication and tasks. Now, imagine if parts of this city start experiencing sudden declines in their workforce. Some workers, aka neurons, disappear, and the streets, aka brain layers, show signs of wear and tear, disrupting the usual flow of activities. This is similar to what happens in parts of the brain affected by FTD, where there's a noticeable loss of neurons and damage to the layers that should be bustling with activity. Furthermore, imagine during a city crisis like an earthquake or a fire, there's usually a surge in emergency response teams and support staff rushing to manage the chaos, repairing, rebuilding, or reinforcing structures. In the brain, this is mirrored by increased supportive cells, known as glial cells. These cells multiply and become more active as they try to repair and protect the brain following damage or inflammation, much like emergency teams responding to a city in distress. Through these examples, you can picture how critical the brain's structure and function are, and what happens when these elements start to break down, leading to the symptoms observed in FTD.
Now let's explore FTD's genetic aspects and diagnostic challenges, shedding light on its complex nature and the methods used to identify it accurately.
Frontotemporal dementia sometimes has a genetic component. Approximately 40% of individuals with FTD have family members with similar symptoms, and about 10% exhibit a clear hereditary pattern where the condition is directly passed from parents to children. This is particularly common in cases associated with behavioral changes like bvFTD or co-occurring motor neuron diseases like ALS. When diagnosing FTD, doctors first rule out other treatable conditions that might mimic its symptoms, such as vitamin deficiencies, infections, or effects of substance abuse. This involves reviewing the patient's medical history, conducting lab tests, and utilizing brain imaging techniques like MRI. FTD can sometimes be misdiagnosed as a mental health issue, such as depression, due to overlapping symptoms. However, detailed examinations, including brain scans, typically reveal distinct signs of the disease, such as specific patterns of brain atrophy. Once FTD is confirmed, Identifying the exact type involves analyzing the brain's structure and correlating specific symptoms with recent research findings. Interestingly, post-mortem examinations reveal that 10 to 30% of cases initially diagnosed as FTD are actually Alzheimer's disease. Accurate diagnosis is crucial as treatments for Alzheimer's, including emerging therapies, are ineffective for FTD. Advanced brain imaging distinguishes FTD from Alzheimer's, focusing on specific patterns of brain shrinkage and activity. Future diagnostics may rely on new biological markers to enhance accuracy and simplify the process.
With this understanding of FTD's complexities, let's focus on how medical professionals manage its symptoms.
Medications for behavior and mood. Many of the medications used for FTD are the same as those used for other mental health issues because they target similar symptoms. People with FTD often have low levels of serotonin, a brain chemical that affects mood. So, doctors prescribe medications that boost serotonin, such as SSRIs, like fluoxetine or sertraline, or SNRIs, like Effexor, to help with depression or unusual behaviors. For more severe agitation or disruptive behaviors, doctors might use antipsychotics, but these are used cautiously because of their severe potential side effects. Dealing with memory and thinking problems. Drugs called acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, which are effective in other types of dementia like Alzheimer's, usually don't help much with FTD. Another drug, memantine, may help manage agitation in FTD and is currently under study. Physical symptoms, like Parkinsonism. FTD can lead to movement issues similar to Parkinson's disease. Medications that increase dopamine, a chemical that helps control movement, might be used, but they don't always work well. If FTD is paired with a motor neuron disease like ALS, treatments like riluzole are considered. Managing problems like incontinence. FTD can also lead to bladder control problems, which doctors manage with medications or sometimes a catheter or incontinent pads. Non-drug treatments. Managing FTD isn't only about medications. Education for caregivers, making home safer, using communication aids, and joining support groups are all important. Physical activities and therapies like speech or occupational therapy are encouraged to help manage symptoms. Overall care. Doctors, patients, and families must discuss expectations and plan for the future, including end-of-life care decisions. In summary, treating FTD involves a combination of medications, therapies to improve life quality, and extensive support for the person with FTD and their caregivers.
Having explored the diverse medical strategies for managing FTD, we now turn to the delicate issue of altered sexual behavior brought on by the disorder at home or care facilities.
Humans are naturally sexual beings and learn appropriate social behaviors around sexuality from an early age. However, when someone develops frontotemporal degeneration, particularly the behavioral variant, it can severely disrupt their sexual behaviors. Changes can include losing interest in sexual activities, making inappropriate comments, or displaying increased sexual desire, known as hypersexuality. These changes are incredibly challenging to manage in long-term care settings where individuals live in close quarters. Such behaviors can become public issues in these environments, where actions like masturbation may be seen as problematic. In one case, John Smith, a 55-year-old with bvFTD, was placed in an assisted living facility after his disinhibited behavior around women at home escalated. Despite the controlled environment, his inappropriate behaviors persisted. He was isolated by the facility staff to prevent further incidents and eventually moved to a specialized care unit for better management. In these settings, staff and family often struggle with how to handle such behaviors. Training on FTD, individualized care plans, and understanding the neurological basis of these behaviors are crucial for managing them effectively. Families of other residents also need reassurance and education to understand that such behaviors are disease symptoms and not intentional actions. Overall, managing sexual behaviors in FTD involves careful consideration, specialized interventions, and compassionate care to balance the needs and safety of all residents while respecting the dignity of those affected by the disease.
Now, let's explore the challenges faced by psychiatrists in diagnosing and managing frontotemporal dementia, which often mimics psychiatric disorders.
From a psychiatrist's perspective, FTD often presents a unique challenge, as it primarily affects behavior and personality, making it easy to confuse with psychiatric disorders. FTD notably blurs the traditional boundaries between what is typically perceived as mental illness and what is recognized as a brain disease. This distinction is particularly challenging for psychiatrists, often the first to evaluate such cases. Consider the case of a man who, around his 60th birthday, began to show uncharacteristic behavior. He struggled with concentration and felt increasingly detached from his work. Initially, these symptoms were mistaken for a midlife crisis, particularly as he disclosed long-concealed aspects of his personal identity, such as being gay. However, these were actually early signs of FTD, not merely depression or personal turmoil. This example underscores the importance of considering FTD in patients who exhibit sudden behavioral changes that do not align with conventional psychological disorders. In particular, the behavioral variant of FTD, aka bvFTD, prompts significant alterations in behavior. Patients may act impulsively, show poor judgment, become socially withdrawn, lose interest in daily activities, and struggle with executive functions such as planning and organizing. They might also overeat or obsessively repeat tasks. Their memory might remain relatively intact despite these changes, adding to diagnostic confusion. Diagnosing bvFTD is complex because its symptoms overlap with several psychiatric conditions, including depression, OCD, and ADHD. Consequently, many with early bvFTD receive incorrect diagnoses of mental illnesses until their neurological decline becomes more apparent. Recognizing bvFTD at its early stage is vital. It profoundly affects the individual's personality and behavior, impacting their relationships and overall quality of life. For instance, a patient exhibited delusions and auditory hallucinations at age 58, and over time, developed a compulsion to eat non-food objects. Another patient experienced her first manic episode at 53, with grandiose ideas and erratic behavior, initially managed as a psychiatric condition until FTD's more definitive symptoms emerged. Psychiatrists, therefore, play an essential role in identifying FTD, especially bvFTD, which often first manifests with psychiatric-like symptoms. Early detection allows for crucial planning for the patient's future. It provides their families with an understanding of the problematic behaviors associated with the disease. Accurate early diagnosis facilitates better disease management and supports optimal care for those affected.
Let's now explore how bvFTD not only complicates medical diagnosis, but also poses significant legal and ethical challenges.
Behavioral variant frontotemporal dementia can start with unexpected changes in how someone acts or feels, and sometimes these changes involve sexual behavior. People with bvFTD might start saying inappropriate things, acting out sexually, or not respecting personal boundaries. If not recognized as symptoms of bvFTD, these behaviors could lead to serious trouble with the law. Unfortunately, bvFTD often flies under the radar, not getting the diagnosis it needs. It accounts for 20% of dementia cases that start before age 65. Since bvFTD affects behavior and personality more than memory or clear thinking early on, someone's actions might be mistaken for intentional misbehavior or a mental health issue instead of a sign of this brain condition. When older adults suddenly start acting differently, forensic psychiatrists must consider bvFTD. Understanding bvFTD is key to diagnosing it correctly, treating it correctly, and making fair legal judgments. This helps separate true criminal intentions from actions driven by a medical condition. As for sexual behavior, it's not uncommon for older adults to start showing behaviors like watching too much porn, making sexual comments, or touching others without consent. Unlike younger folks, where these behaviors might come from long-standing psychological issues, in older adults, they're often due to changes in the brain caused by conditions like dementia. These adults are more likely to get involved in nonviolent sexual offenses, like inappropriate touching or exposure, sometimes even focusing this behavior on children. It's crucial to figure out whether these behaviors are new or are just now being noticed. Often, these late-life behaviors link back to dementia-related changes in the brain, not to lifelong sexual disorders that start in adolescence. For instance, bvFTD can drastically alter someone's personality, diminish their empathy, and mess with their judgment, leading to inappropriate actions. Studies have shown that many legal issues involving people with bvFTD are about sexual misconduct, including severe offenses and public indecencies like inappropriate urination. Recognizing that these sudden changes in sexual behavior in older adults might be caused by underlying neurological changes like bvFTD is crucial. This understanding helps ensure they get the correct diagnosis and treatment, and that legal assessments are fair, attributing their actions to the real causes. In a study of criminal violation by FTD patients, Dr. Mario F. Mendez illustrated one example. A man in his 50s was arrested after inappropriately touching a woman. He had also been making offensive comments about women's bodies. He was found with condoms and sildenafil, a medication used to treat erectile dysfunction, at his workplace. When confronted, he admitted his actions were wrong and understood they were serious offenses. His behavior escalated when he trespassed into his neighbor's home, claiming he was looking for undelivered mail. These actions were out of character for him, indicating a significant change in his personality. When asked about his behavior, he explained that he couldn't control himself at the time. A year before this, he showed less empathy, made too many inappropriate jokes, and made frequent driving mistakes. He acted impulsively, making unnecessary trips, and developed a daily habit of eating sweets, which was unusual for him. His appearance became unkempt, and he often stained his clothes while eating. Medical checks showed he had a good grasp of language and memory. Brain scans indicated changes in brain activity, especially in the frontal and temporal areas. Doctors diagnosed him with a type of FTD. He began physical and occupational therapy and started medications to help manage his condition.
This background sets the stage for the complex legal challenges posed by bvFTD, especially when behaviors escalate to criminality.
When sexually inappropriate actions escalate into crimes like rape or voyeurism, they obviously become serious legal matters. Courts have to dive deep into assessments to understand how risky an offender might be and the best steps for managing and sentencing them. But when someone has behavioral variant frontotemporal dementia, everything gets more complicated. This condition messes with how people act, their personalities, and the way they relate to others, which can sometimes lead to accusations of sexual offenses. It's super important for the courts to get a clear picture of how bvFTD affects someone's behavior, figure out if they might re-offend, and what kind of treatment could work. A big hurdle with bvFTD is figuring out if someone is even fit to stand trial. Defenses like insanity or diminished capacity usually don't stick, because even though folks with bvFTD might act on a whim or seem cold, they often understand what they're doing is wrong. In essence, they knew what they did was wrong, but did not care and did it anyway. Courts rarely buy the irresistible impulse defense, where someone claims they couldn't control their actions unless it is clearly proven otherwise. When deciding on a sentence, figuring out how bvFTD influences behavior is critical. This doesn't excuse what they've done. Still, it does add some much-needed context that could affect the severity of their punishment or even sway the decision toward mental health care instead of jail time. Sometimes, understanding that a person's sudden odd behavior is due to bvFTD has led to lighter sentences.
Finally, we delve into the personal story of Lee Holloway, whose life illustrates neurological disease's profound and personal impact.
On a significant day in September 2019, Cloudflare's co-founders, Matthew Prince and Michelle Zatlin, celebrated their company's public offering at the New York Stock Exchange. While they enjoyed their success, Kristen Holloway, Cloudflare's employee number 11, texted photos of the event to her husband, Lee Holloway, a brilliant coder who had co-founded the company but was now absent, secluded at home in California due to inexplicable changes in his behavior. Years earlier, Lee was known as the genius behind Cloudflare. His coding brilliance and innovative ideas were pivotal to building the company's infrastructure, now responsible for handling a vast portion of the internet's requests and defending against cyber threats. His passion for the project was once so intense, he vowed not to cut his hair until Cloudflare's traffic surpassed that of Yahoo, a goal swiftly achieved. However, Lee's demeanor changed mysteriously. He became disinterested, dismissive, and difficult, puzzling those who knew him as an easygoing and intelligent collaborator. As Lee's personality shifted drastically, his life also took unexpected turns. He separated from his first wife and soon entered a new relationship with a co-worker, Kristen. His sudden personality changes and decisions led to speculations that perhaps success and wealth had changed him. However, those close to him suspected it wasn't a simple case of altered priorities or ego, but something profoundly wrong. The situation escalated as Lee became more erratic, retreating further from the vibrant person he once was. Despite numerous efforts by his colleagues and loved ones to connect with him and bring him back to his old self, Lee continued to spiral away, his actions becoming more incomprehensible. Finally, after years of confusion and emotional turmoil for his family, the cause of Lee's disturbing behavior was identified: frontotemporal dementia, a neurodegenerative disease that drastically alters behavior and personality, often leaving cognitive functions like memory relatively intact until the later stages. This diagnosis came as a shock, yet provided some answers to the bewildering changes Lee had undergone, explaining his emotional detachment, unusual decisions, and eventual withdrawal from the life he once led. Lee's story is a tragic exploration of identity and illness. It challenges the essence of what makes us who we are and how we relate to those we love, when the very foundation of our personality is eroded by disease. The narrative unfolds as a poignant reminder of the fragility of the human mind and the heartache of watching a loved one become a stranger due to an unrelenting condition for which there is no cure. As Lee's condition progressed, his family took steps to ensure his safety and comfort, adapting their lives and expectations to the reality of FTD. His wife, Kristen, orchestrated a setting that could cater to his needs, demonstrating immense love and commitment despite the profound changes in their relationship. Lee's story, marked by his early brilliance and later decline, leaves a lingering question about the continuity of self and the impact of neurological disease on personal identity, challenging our understanding of what it truly means to know someone. In the haunting silence of Arnold Pick's legacy, we are compelled to confront not just the limits of our medical knowledge, but also the profound impact of diseases like frontotemporal dementia on our understanding of identity and morality. The narrative of Lee Holloway, reshaped by such an insidious illness, serves as a stark reminder of our vulnerability and the ephemeral nature of what we perceive as the self. It invites a deeply personal reflection on the resilience of the human spirit, urging us to cherish each moment of clarity and connection. The mind's labyrinth holds paths that can diverge in the blink of an eye, leading us into shadows from which there may be no return.